Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to the Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. I really appreciate you watching new episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today I want to talk about is what many Democrats don't talk about is inflation, except for Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, habitual liar, long history of lying about all kinds of things, but she is really saying some, ever since this sort of an inflationary period started in the last couple of years, she's really said some nutty things about inflation, as if she doesn't know. I think it's more likely she knows what she should be talking about, but she is not 100% sure, but she just doesn't care whether she's telling the truth or she's just outright lying. Here's a clip of her. This is a video that is off of her channel, Elizabeth Warren's channel, and it's entitled Elizabeth Warren Debunks 3 Myths About Inflation. She doesn't, but that's the title of it. And this was done in around May 10th, I believe. So here's a short clip.
It's time to set the record straight. The stuff you hear in the news about price hikes at the grocery store or gas station is just plain wrong.
Inflation is raging!
Inflation in the United States soaring to its highest level in 4 decades.
And you've likely noticed just about everything costs more now, from the grocery store to the gas pump.
Gas prices are bananas.
You hear in the news that pandemic, war, and supply chain are all to blame for inflation, and that is part.
So she lists supply chain, pandemic, war. What she doesn't mention is the government spent gobs and gobs and gobs of money, and then the Federal Reserve reacts by expanding the money supply, as actually been doing for quite a while, but it really went crazy during the pandemic. And so the Federal Reserve didn't raise interest rates. They're not trying to shrink the money supply until this year, and now they're faced with probably throwing the country into a recession as GDP the first quarter of 2022 actually shrunk. So the United States economy actually shrunk. But this is what she says is the culprit.
For the firms in an industry, the easier it is for them to collude and to fix prices. Which brings me to our final myth. There are enough rules in place to prevent price gouging in the first place. Nope, not even close on that one.
So Elizabeth Warren blames corporate greed, completely ignoring, and the reason she does this is because she's going to lie about this. She's very deceptive about this. She blames corporate greed, but does not explain, well, why now? Why weren't corporations greedy when the price of gas in 2017 was $2.47 instead of what it is today? And you know what it is today, unless you just don't drive or pay any attention or care. So the other thing that she doesn't mention is that the deficit spending, she takes no blame for this whatsoever. In fact, she's going to spend. That's what she does. But here's the really interesting thing about Elizabeth Warren. She thinks that Democrats should talk more about inflation. In other words, it's a politically advantage for them to talk more about rising prices of all consumer goods, but particularly energy. And one of the big reasons, of course, is the Biden administration has really clamped down on the ability of oil producers to produce oil through government restrictions, tied their hands, and that's what Elizabeth Warren loves, that sort of thing. She's a Democrat senator from Massachusetts. She's been there a while. She'll probably be there until she dies, because for whatever reasons, people will vote for this liar over and over and over again. This is a headline from a very left-wing newspaper called the Boston Globe, and it says, Elizabeth Warren's advice for Democrats: more, not less, talk of inflation. So she thinks it's actually a good thing for them to talk about inflation. In other words, this will help her party maintain power. She actually believes that. So from this same article, it was March 5th, 2022, It says Marcella Mulholland, the political director with a progressive group, Data for Progress, said Democrats appear to be intimidated by inflation. It is, after all, a global and complex issue that no president or political party can easily fix. Her group's own polling has found that messages about lowering prices, shoring up the supply chain, and holding corporations accountable are among the strongest inflation-related messages for voters. Blaming Republicans and COVID and downplaying the issue were less effective, she said. Democrats are in power and Republicans are certainly not going to miss the opportunity to blame Biden for inflation, Mulholland said. But that being said, Democrats still need to put up a fight here. Some Democrats on Capitol Hill disputed the idea that they are not talking about inflation, saying they use phrases like rising costs that were not captured by the analysis. Over the next few weeks, Democrats are planning on introducing proposals to target rising prices, including those of prescription drugs, according to Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat from Maryland. There are a number of issues where I think we're going to be asking our Republican colleagues if they'll join us in helping to reduce cost pressures. He said, okay. So when you look at this article, yes, Democrats aren't intimidated as much as depressed, maybe, that they're going to get beat by Republicans in the fall, because this is such an issue that Democrats primarily solely, well, I shouldn't say solely because they do get some help from some Republicans, but they are the driving force behind the wild spending that has occurred over the last 15 years, and especially the last 3 years. And this article says it's a global and complex issue that no president or political party can easily fix. That's true, but they don't tell you with this liberal rag. The Boston Globe does not tell you is how it should be fixed. They're not going to do that, either because they really, really don't have anybody that understands the problem and can write about it, or they don't care. I think it's more the latter, that they don't care. So when they talk about the polling, it's found messages about lowering prices, showing up the supply chain, and holding corporations accountable. They don't talk about what the truth is. They just talk about what the story is for Democrats and what story they need to tell to avoid blame. The third paragraph, she says, but that being said, Democrats still need to put up a fight here. Yeah, it's in some places this may sell. So what Elizabeth Warren has talked about doing, and this has just been in the past few days, is May 23rd, 2022, as I talk about this, she has introduced this anti-gouging pricing legislation in Congress, which is the idea that Congress can decide what prices should be. So what happens is, it's happened before, for those who are old enough to remember, President Nixon froze prices. I've done another episode about this, and there were lines and lines of people waiting to get gas because the oil companies it was a losing proposition to do anything except to restrict the amount of supply that was sent out, because they were going to get totally. There's no way they can make any money, and if you can't make any money, then long term you can't. I mean, every business is like that. They don't ship things out at a loss for a very long time, or the object of having a business is to make money. Otherwise, and the other objective is to stay solvent. And if you don't know when these price controls are going to end, so they just don't ship the product. But that is where Democrats are going when according to this Chris Van Hollen, Senator, Democrat from Maryland, there are a number of issues where I think we're going to be asking our Republican colleagues if they'll join us in helping to reduce cost pressures. He's talking about price controls. That's what he's talking about. And I wouldn't be surprised if some Republicans go along with this. But the issue is going to be, what will Republicans do if they get power in the fall? Will they be honest with the American people? I don't know. The history behind this isn't great. Price controls haven't worked in many states, and have tried on a federal level, as she is suggesting or proposing be done. That will be a miserable thing because people will not be able to get the goods and services that they want. The other thing that's driving this, of course, is the restrictions the Biden administration has put on oil suppliers. So I got to thinking about, well, is this messaging, this idea that Democrats are afraid to talk about inflation, is that true or not? So I looked up the Facebook post for my congressman. Her name is Carolyn Bourdeaux, 7th District, I believe it's 7th District in Georgia. So I gave the representative a call, officer call, and this is what how the call went. Hi, is this Carolyn Bourdeaux's office?
Yes, thank you for calling Congresswoman Carolyn Bourdeaux's office. How may I help you?
Yeah, I have just a few questions maybe you can help me with. My name's Bill Griffin. I live in Gwinnett County, Georgia. So I'm a constituent of hers. So I'm curious about something. Looking at her Facebook tweets and the correspondence she sent out, does she think that the energy prices this year that have been rising so fast, is that a good thing? Does she think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
So I cannot speak for the Congresswoman, but I can take down an opinion for you.
Oh, my opinion is it's a terrible thing. But I'm surprised that she has not mentioned that in any Facebook post or Twitter or anything like that I can see.
All right, sir. So I could take down a message for you. So
that's it. Yeah, that's the message. Rising energy prices are a bad thing. Does she have any plans to do anything about it? Are you aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, sir, but I will definitely get your concerns to the Congresswoman.
Okay.
Get that addressed. Yeah.
So here's another question. So does she understand that federal deficit spending is the primary cause of inflation?
Yeah. I again cannot speak for the Congresswoman, but definitely she will take that into consideration.
Yeah, I was going through her Facebook posts, and I appreciate you being so kind to put up with this. I was looking at her Facebook post and so forth, and she does not mention that as a cause at all. So I doubt she's aware of it, or maybe she just doesn't care. So that's my comment.
Oh, definitely she does. She does, sir. I can assure you of that. And
she does what?
She does care about this cause, and I will definitely get this to her.
She doesn't care enough to post it on Facebook because she spends money like a drunken sailor.
Well, I will definitely get this address.
Okay. Now,
yeah.
Okay, just a couple more. I'm not going to take all day. Trust me.
Yeah.
So she says in her Facebook post that she wants to end the filibuster. So she's in favor of doing that when the Republicans were in the majority, or if they get into the majority. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So she's in favor of ending the filibuster even if the Republicans are in the majority.
Once again, I cannot speak on behalf of the Congresswoman, but whatever statements that she has said, she would stand by.
She's good. So she would really be in favor of Republicans of the filibuster ending even if the Republicans were in the majority.
Well, I'm not sure of that, but...
Well, that's what she says. Okay, so my comment is, yeah, it's just that. If she believes it for Democrats, she ought to believe it for Republicans. So I doubt she does, but I'll take, we'll take a word for it. Okay, the next question. Does Representative Bourdeaux think it's okay for public school teachers to discuss the subject of sexual orientation with children under the age of 10?
Once again, I cannot talk about the Congresswoman's position on issues, but I can definitely take a concern.
So her Facebook posts say that indicate that she thinks that that's a big problem. That, in other words, that she thinks it's okay for teachers to discuss sexual orientation for children under the age of 10. So that's my comment.
Okay, I will note that down. I will definitely note that.
I think that's wrong. Don't you think that's wrong? To do that?
Yes, I got that down. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. But one other.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, were you trying to say something else?
Yes, one other thing. Yeah, so I do a podcast, and I'll distribute this to thousands of people. And if anybody from her office or she wants to participate, I'm happy to, interact that way. Maybe do an interview on Zoom or something if she's interested, because I'm going to market this to thousands of people in Gwinnett County.
All right. I will definitely have someone reach out, but thank you so much for calling our office.
How are they going to reach me?
Yeah.
How will they reach me? I haven't given you my phone number. Do you have my phone number or something?
When you call, yeah. Could you give me your phone number? Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you for your time. You've been very kind. Did I ask anything unreasonable?
No, sir, you're fine. And thank you so much for calling our office. We
All
will
right.
get
All
your
right.
comment at best.
Thank you. Have a good day. If you've never called your representative, that's kind of how it goes. Usually the person you're talking to can't answer or won't answer questions, can't answer questions. But sometimes you get a hold of somebody that can and is willing to talk, and then it gets kind of interesting because in this particular case, Carolyn Bourdeaux has not uttered a word in her Facebook post, and I counted something like 500 this year alone. So she's posting a lot of stuff every single day, and it's all about vote buying schemes or how this group has been wrong and how that group's been wrong, and the typical Democrat talking points. She just falls in line. She talks about how great the economy is going. At the same time, GDP is shrunk. That is the thing that's interesting. Another interesting facet of this is the Congressman Carolyn Bourdeaux is not going to talk about inflation. She has not talked. I invited, when I talked to the staffer on the phone, I invited her to, I told her I was doing a podcast. I was putting this on the podcast, and that if Carolyn Bourdeaux, one of her staff, wanted to interact with me on the podcast, I'd be open to that. I doubt that'll happen, but I offered anyway. In summary, inflation is not caused by corporate greed, and Democrats are scared to death to talk about this because they know that the Biden administration, which was just their new press secretary that took the place of Jen Psaki, I can't really recall her name right now, but she had great difficulty in answering. Her name is Karine Jean, Jean Jean-Pierre. I'm not sure if that's pronounced Jean or Jean, but anyway, she's the new White House press secretary. She had a really tough time answering this question and claimed that raising the corporate tax rate would alleviate inflation, which is, let's see how that works. You raise taxes, and then corporations, in order to recoup the taxes that they're going to have to pay on their profits, they're going to lower prices. That makes sense. That doesn't make sense to me. Raise taxes, you get lower prices. Doesn't make sense. Sorry it took me a while to figure out where my hand should be in relation to the camera. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. And new episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thanks again.